Just when you thought we were out, we're back. Bet-Sided crew is here going over best bets for the NFL. Yep, sure are. Still plenty of opportunities. There's 360 days left to next year's Super Bowl. So perfect opportunity for all of us to go over our favorite futures bet over at WynnBET for Super Bowl 57 over in Glendale, Arizona. Ben Heisler with Ian McMillan, Donovan Smoot, Peter Dewey, and Reed Wallet. You guys know the drill by now. We're going to go around and, 360 days from now, we're going to go ahead and play this video back, and everyone will remember all the red hot takes that were coming out with the Super Bowl a full year away. So let's get it started, shall we? Ian, give me the team that's going to win the Super Bowl in 2023 with it being a year away. The floor is yours, my friend.
I think the bet to make right now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 35-1. The reason why is because I think Tom Brady is coming back. This man has haunted me my entire life. There's no way that he's just going to retire and run off into the sunset. Tom Brady will be back to break my heart and crush my soul once again. A big reason why I don't fully believe guys when they say they're going to retire right after the season, because you just went through a long season. You just got eliminated in a heartbreaking game in the playoffs. It kind of seems like such a long road to go through another full season that it seems overwhelming, and you just end up retiring. You see it a lot in the UFC, actually. For anyone who watches the UFC, you know this. Fighters retire almost after every fight. They're like, all right, I'm retired, I'm done. And then like a month later, they're like, okay, I'm back. It's just kind of they don't give themselves enough time to fully process it. I think Tom Brady's probably going to skip the first half of training camp. This is his way to get out of most of training camp as well. But this guy's too obsessed with football, and he's too obsessed with haunting me. So he will be back. He'll be back with the Buccaneers. The NFC South stinks. So even without Tom Brady, the Bucs could probably win the NFC South if they get a half-decent quarterback. So 35-1 is, I think, a good price with him. Fantastic price with him, even not too bad of a price without him. So I'll take Buccaneers right now. I think this is, if you're looking to bet on a team now and a team that probably presents the best value now, I think it's the Buccaneers more than anyone else, because Tom Brady's coming back. You heard it here first.
Okay. I actually kind of agree with the Tom Brady coming back take. I agree that it's a little rash that he said that. He also, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility Tom Brady plays. That being said, are we sure it's for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Are we sure he's not going to go to the next best situation? Like, I don't know, San Francisco might be trading Jimmy Garoppolo. There was the rumors that he looking in. I'm just saying, it's not a certainty he's going to go back to Tampa Bay.
Is he not under contract with them? They wouldn't have to trade him? I thought he was signed through another year.
If we're going to open up this can of worms of Tom Brady coming back, I do believe that he's going to be a free agent, though.
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal.
I could be
wrong.
Don't
think he signed any sort of extension after he won the Super Bowl. So I believe Brady is a free agent.
Guys.
I thought I read something else. But anytime
he's also currently retired.
Stuff, my brain hurts when I read contract stuff, and I give up like 2 sentences in. So I thought I saw that he has an extension through to next year, but I'm probably wrong.
Guys,
he had an extension, but it was voidable. It was an extension for the next 3 years, but it was voidable. So it gets voided when he retires, I believe. But Ian, you're not wrong. He did sign something, but all the years after 2022 were voidable.
Y'all need to let that man go home. Man, he has children who miss him. Let him go. He's not coming back. I think Giselle has put her foot down, and it's been about time that Tommy comes home. And now he's just going to.
I hope you're right.
All right. Hold on. Just so we have it all on the record. Show of hands, who believes that Tom Brady will play down during the 2022 season? Okay. All right, bottom row.
Interesting.
Bottom row is backing on Brady making some sort of a return. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Listen, I feel like I kind of have to take the man at his word. Like, he made a whole stink when the reports came out that he wasn't retired, or that he was going to retire. Said that he still had a lot of thinking to do, when the reality was he just wanted to send out, a note from his iPhone instead and make that be this whole situation. I think he's done. And
if he announced his retirement in like July, then I would believe it. But it's too close to when his heart got broken in that playoff loss. He'll take some time to think. He'll spend some time with the family. He'll get the itch again. He'll be back.
There will definitely be a report about Tom Brady potentially coming back this summer.
Oh,
I don't know if he actually will, but like the first quarterback injury in training camp, team gonna place a call at the Tom Brady, gauge his interest on joining the team this offseason.
It's going to be a very interesting story.
That's a lot.
Yes, there will be multiple teams that reach out to Tom and say, What are you doing, Val? What are you doing? You really want to be a family man? You can be a family man, 8 months out of the year. But now this is your time. Or maybe the situation is somebody calls him up when an injury happens and they're a quarterback away. That I think is the more like it's like the Phillip Rivers effect, except it's a player that's won 7 Super Bowls. Right? How many times was Phillip Rivers mentioned as the possibility of coming back to the Colts or filling in the void for another team that needed a quarterback? I think will happen throughout the course of the season.
I bet the Colts wish they just convinced Phil Rivers instead of having Carson Wentz finish that season. But hey, that's just me.
Colts are 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. I have a really good team, except for that quarterback. That can happen sometimes, and that's another team that maybe someone wants to jump on if you assume that you're actually going to get something back for Carson Wentz. We'll have to see. All right, so we got the Buccaneers off the board from one Ian McMillan. His reasoning, because Tom Brady is not going to sit at home and play with his children. He is going to come back and try to win his 8th Super Bowl. That is a bold take, but a good way for us to go ahead and kick things off today. Donovan, give me a team that's going to win the Super Bowl in a year from now.
The Los Angeles Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl. That's the pick. That's the play. They are plus 2,000 right now. Listen, they had a top 5 offense in the league last year. They were great on 3rd down. They were great on 4th down. They are the most aggressive team in the league. Their problem is that they couldn't stop anybody, and they got penalized too much. But the penalties that they can clean up, and that's going to come with culture and Brandon Staley actually getting on people. But in terms of the defense, they have $57 million in cap space this year. They have the second most cap space this summer. They can go out and buy an entirely new defense. They can fix themselves up. And even if the defense doesn't get to an elite status, even if the defense doesn't get to top 10 status, they only have to be middle of the pack because they have Justin freaking Herbert, who is an actual top 5 quarterback, probably top 4, and legit has a chance to be the second best quarterback in the league this season. Justin Herbert is that good, and I have full faith in Justin Herbert that this year that if they go out and get another receiver, because Keenan Allen was kind of declining, Mike Williams is inconsistent. If you get Herbert one more receiver, pair him with Eckler and Justin Jackson in the backfield, the Chargers are going to be just fine. And I think this is finally the year that they wash off this whole losing stench that they have, and they stop finding creative ways to lose, and they actually win it all and win the Super Bowl.
And hopefully for the Chargers, they might actually have some fans to come and watch them be a Super Bowl contender.
I think it's a bigger stretch. The odds would be longer for the Chargers to have a sellout game than to win the Super Bowl. They have no fans. They also have no business being in Los Angeles. That was a mistake by the NFL. But We're here now, and they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl this year.
All right. I can't disagree with that logic at all. I think that's actually a very intriguing prop bet that we may have written at betsided.com at some point in the not too distant future. So the Chargers are off the board, 25-1 or 25-1 or 20-1.
They are 20-1.
20-1. Okay, so Chargers off the board 20-1. Tampa Bay off the board 35-1. Peter Dewey, who's going to win the Super Bowl a year from now?
Listen, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And I thought that the Ravens had a shot heading into the 2021 season, and then just about every single important player on the roster got injured, including Lamar Jackson, during the 2021 season. But next year, they're going to bring back Marcus Peters. They're going to bring back Ronnie Stanley. They're going to bring back J.K. Dobbins. Lamar is going to be healthy. They're going to have a better draft pick than most people probably would have expected the Ravens to have because they didn't make the playoffs. And I am not afraid of the AFC North. I know the entire playoffs, I was all over the Bengals, but we saw with the Bengals offensive line, it needs some serious work. And as Reed has mentioned on Bet and Breakfast, it is hard to get back to the Super Bowl. I think we are going to see some regression from the Bengals in some way in this next season. And then you look at the other teams in the AFC North. I am completely out on the Cleveland Browns, which I know is going to irk somebody into this video, but I can't trust a team that has Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. And even if they can get off Baker Mayfield, who are they necessarily bringing in to replace him? I don't see Aaron Rodgers going there. I don't see Russell Wilson going there. So how much better of a replacement are you going to get for Baker? And as we know, the Steelers, they don't have a quarterback either. Obviously, they could be in the market for Jimmy Garoppolo, several other guys. But I think the division is seriously up for grabs entering this year. I think the Ravens are the best team if they can stay healthy. Obviously, that's a huge if. But you look at them last year, they got off to that fast start, and then the injuries continued to pile up. They just genuinely didn't have enough roster depth. I don't think anyone in the NFL would have if they had 20-plus players on injured reserve to be a playoff team. So they're a plus 2,000. I like them. You look at the previous years with Lamar, they've been one of the best teams in the AFC constantly. Lamar's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the AFC, easily one of the top 7 quarterbacks in football. I like John Harbaugh. I think they have a real chance here.
Yes, Peter, that is a great final point on Lamar Jackson, that he is a top 7 quarterback. Honestly, outside of the Chargers pick, the Ravens pick is great. Like the injuries, like you said, they just piled up too much. Like they were 6-2. Mm-hmm. They were 6-2 at one point, and it just gets to a point where you just ask too much of your quarterback. But I really like that pick from you.
I don't know how you can say a guy who threw 16 touchdowns and 13 interceptions last year with a 50.8 QBR is a top 7 QB in the league.
Get him healthy.
He's got it, dude. He's got an MVP. Look at Lamar's previous years. Look at the roster they had last year, though. They were playing Le'Veon Bell at running back.
4 years ago. Is Matt Ryan a top 7 QB in the NFL?
They were putting
2016 maybe.
The roster they put together around Lamar was horrible, man. Like, it was horrible. And it wasn't anybody's fault. I can't even blame the Ravens. Like, they had 20-plus guys on injured reserve. Their top 3 running backs didn't play a snap in the entire season. They were rotating Tyson Williams, Latavius Murray, Devonta Freeman, and Le'Veon Bell in the year 2021. Like, that just should not be happening. They had so many holes on the roster. It's going to get fixed.
Keep going, Peter. Tell Ian what he needs to hear. Tell him. Because he's a non-believer.
I'm seeing a 50.8 QBR by Lamar Jackson. I would not make him a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. I think it's a wild take.
I think we can all agree that regardless of where you have Lamar Jackson amongst your list of top quarterbacks in the league, they're all hanging out in the AFC though. Like, can we all agree with that? You have Mahomes, you have Herbert, you have Josh Allen. I think Lamar Jackson deserves consideration in that category. He's up there for me as well. There's just a murderer's row of really good, young, talented quarterbacks that even though, like, we're talking about like Buffalo and Kansas City as the favorites at 7-1, you still have to go through all these different teams. And there's a possibility, I mean, based off the odds over at WinBet, they're already anticipating that Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, right? Like, they're 15-1 without having made a move yet. And that's just
Peter loves it
going over there to become their new coach. So if you're assuming that Rodgers all of a sudden joins the AFC, like, there's a lot of guys and a lot of talent at that same spot that you're going to have to get past. And that could be a bit of a concern as well.
But the thing is, you have to remember is exactly what happened this year. They also knock each other out. Like, the reason I was on the Bengals this year is because we talked about they weren't going to have to face the Chiefs or the Bills. They weren't going to have to face both of them in the playoffs. So, like, you could also get a scenario where, depending upon where you land, you only have to face 1 or 2 of those guys based on who makes the playoffs. Like, say the Ravens get the 1, you might have to face, somebody in the first round that if there's an upset, and then you're only having to beat 1 team. Like, it all depends. Like, I completely agree, but everybody, even if everybody makes the playoffs, like, they're just going to knock each other out, where it's not like, okay, we have to beat Aaron Rodgers 1 week and Joe Burrow the next week and Josh Allen and then Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're only going to have to play probably 2, maybe 3 of them. I think Lamar, I'm high on Lamar. So I'm not like worried about him going up against another quarterback. I think he's too dynamic for people to say he's not top 7.
That's a really good point. And the other component to that is if you get that first round bye, that's going to be even more important than ever. Like you're going to see teams full on blitz each other when it comes to trying to get seeding in the AFC this year. It's more important than it's ever been to get that first round bye. And yes, the Titans lost in the first round. There's been teams that have gone out after getting a bye, but you need it purely just to be able to knock out another team without having to step on the field. So I'm with you there. I think it's going to be a fascinating race to the top of the AFC. Let's keep things going. Reed Wallach, your Super Bowl winner in 2023 is whom?
Yeah, and it's funny because I agree with the AFC, NFC take, how the NFC has probably an easier path, but I'm looking at the odds board right now, and I'm not trying to bet these teams at the top because where's their price going to go? Their price is probably going to stay the same or fall further back. I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns as a team at 30-1 that could make a lot of improvements in the offseason and see their price climb closer to the top. Of course, we know Baker Mayfield, not very good. I understand. Thank you. But they also have 20+ million in cap space. And they have in my opinion, a top 5 coach in Kevin Stefanski who knows how to run an offense. They also have Myles Garrett, who's a contender every which year for Defensive Player of the Year, arguably the most effective behind your Aaron Donalds and TJ Watt. Myles Garrett's right there. So there are pieces on this Cleveland roster for them to be a contender. And we just spoke about the AFC North. Wide open. Yes, the Bengals are good. Yes, the Ravens are good. The Steelers probably due for a step back. The Browns are in that mix. They had a ton of injuries this season, and and Baker Mayfield was completely ineffective, and they still were in the playoff hunt. So with necessary adjustments, possibly an upgrade at quarterback, they could be right in the top of the AFC playoff picture. And yeah, at 30-1, I think that this should probably be closer to 20-1.
I just want to confirm something that you said. You have Stefanski, because I like Stefanski as well. I don't know if I'm ready to go ahead and call him a top 5 coach in the league. I just want to make sure that I heard you say that correctly.
Yeah, that was a little aggressive out of me, but I could go near top 5. Easy top 10. Like, I am a Kevin Stefanski believer because I believe he does calls the right offense. He goes for it on 4th down. I think he makes a lot of good decisions on the field. Top 5, maybe that came like blurting out of my mouth a little too hot, but top 10, yeah, I'll put him there. I think he's a very good coach, and I trust him.
I'll take you being a Kevin Stefanski stan over a Baker Mayfield stan. That's fine by me.
No, again, Baker was rendered useless by the end of the year. Maybe he gets healthy and he makes improvements. He probably doesn't. But there's also a chance the Browns make an upgrade at quarterback, whether through trade or not. Like, if this offense picks up Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not going to say they're the best team in the AFC, but why can't they run an offense with Jimmy Garoppolo and be high end again? He just did it in San Francisco.
Reed. Getting Jimmy Garoppolo.
They went to the NFC Championship. Like, I could go back through the same thing again. Like, the Browns could do that again.
That is a downgrade. And the only way that the Browns win the Super Bowl is if your earlier prediction is right and Tom Brady comes and plays for them. That's the only way that they win the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo is a lateral move to Baker Mayfield at best.
I'm looking right now betting teams that are too far down the board that are going to see their odds, shrink. I'm talking shrink by at least 10 times.
I understand.
I think that there's room for improvement with the Browns. Sure, we could throw out the Jimmy Garoppolo take for the summer.
I understand your point, but you said quarterback upgrade and Jimmy Garoppolo in the same sentence, and so I was just like,
okay.
That's just
I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is that bad.
Guys, he's trash.
I know it's the hot take. He's
not good. He's not good.
He makes a couple bad mistakes every game, but I feel like the analytics say that he's actually pretty good.
That would have been.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong with that, Reed? You're the Ken Palm guy. Does Ken Palm do NFL?
No, I agree with you. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, he's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship game. I think he might be actually okay.
The analytics actually indicated.
And also the Browns would actually have a very similar offense to Kyle Shanahan's 49ers rush first offense. So I actually think the fit is pretty good, and the Browns have cap space. I'm just saying that I think the Browns are a team that is likely going to be better this season, and their odds are likely to be closer to 20-1 come week 1. So that is why they are my bet. I think there's still a lot to be sussed out in the offseason before we start calling teams Super Bowl champs or not. Like where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go.
Perfectly reasonable take. I would disagree slightly. I would think the analytics community would be all about Trey Lance, given his ability to run. Like, they were all very much an advocate of him playing right away for the 49ers to have the highest upside amongst all the teams heading into the Super Bowl. But Garoppolo kind of in that Alex Smith camp of wins a lot of games, whether you can make an argument that it's because of him or in spite of him. I actually do think him and Baker are kind of the same guy. When they're on, they do look like fairly competent quarterbacks. They're accurate in the short to intermediate field. They do a lot of play action. They're successful when you have a really good run game and a good offensive line. Like, if the two of those guys ended up competing against each other, I think that would make for like a good Superman meme heading into the start of the season. Like that to me, I think would actually be really, really interesting. Peter, I know you got one more thing on the Browns before we keep going.
Yeah, my one thing is just like, because I think they have to upgrade a quarterback. I just wonder, how do you upgrade a quarterback and get off Baker Mayfield? Like, if the 49ers aren't trading Jimmy G for Baker Mayfield, like that just wouldn't make sense for them. If they're going to go with Trey Lance, why would you take on the Baker Mayfield deal? Like, I just wonder how they upgrade a quarterback, and like, you can't cut Baker. Like, what do you do? Well, no, because he's on his 5th year. So it's like $18.6 million or something this year. He's making a lot of money this year on his 5th year. So like, that's where my concern is. Like, if you don't get one of those top guys, is it worth taking on the salary of a Jimmy G or another quarterback? And then you can't really fix much else about the roster because you're paying 2 quarterbacks at the same time. That's my one thing with them. I don't know how they do that.
If it's a 1-year deal for Garoppolo, I think you can make the argument for it because the Browns are in a win now mode. And again, that's a very analytically driven coaching staff and front office too. They might come to the realization that this isn't the guy that we want. We better focus on somebody that we can sort of build around long term, and then try to construct our roster around a young quarterback, because that's the key to success for a lot of these teams, unless you're a veteran quarterback coming in like we've seen over the last couple seasons, or you have an elite option already. That's why I think 1-year deal, you might be able to find a way to get the salaries to line up. Let me give you guys my team, since we've already made fun of all of our picks already. So this one should be right up everybody's alley. How about the Dallas Cowboys? 18-1. Now, but before everybody's ready to go ahead and get their jokes off about the Cowboys, and listen, I was leading the charge with Mike McCarthy running that ship. They were the #1 overall team in DVOA a season ago. Dallas Cowboys, ahead of Buffalo, ahead of Tampa Bay, ahead of Kansas City. This is a team that finished #1 in offense. They were a top 6 defense over the course of the year. Still issues, and they're going to have some free agency issues. We'll see whether or not Amari Cooper is back, what the rest of the wide receiver core looks like. But you have pieces and you have continuity with Kellen Moore coming back as offensive coordinator. Dan Quinn back after getting multiple opportunities to be a head coach again. He's back as defensive coordinator. Micah Parsons could be in running for defensive player of the year with guys like TJ Watt. There's a lot of talent on this team. And I said on Monday on Bet and Breakfast that if Aaron Rodgers is gone from Green Bay, with the Rams losing Whitworth, possibly even Sean McVay if he decides to retire, Aaron Donald could retire as well. And then you have the 49ers dealing with a situation where they're going to be starting a quarterback who started a game last year. And those are the 2 teams in the futures market at WinBet that are ahead of Dallas. Like, I think from a talent level, there is a legitimate argument to be made that the Cowboys have the most talent in the NFC. And yes, they're still going to find some incredible ways to probably lose it. But if we're talking about continuity, if we're talking about talent, if we're talking about stability at the quarterback spot, Dallas has all of those things. And I think they could legitimately make a move in a conference that's going to be down next year. I've stunned you all.
No.
So
very
right here.
Very valid.
My issue with the Cowboys is that their coaching stinks. Mike McCarthy is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. He does not deserve to be a head coach whatsoever. They extremely underperformed this year with the amount of talent they had. So I agree they're a very talented team, but I have issues betting on them to win the Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy. I can just picture his dumb face making several mistakes in a big playoff game in the NFC Conference Championship if they somehow manage to get there. And everyone's talking about Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator. Nobody knows Dan Quinn better than I know Dan Quinn. He's not. I mean, the Cowboys' defense was not good this year because Micah Parsons was good and Diggs got a ton of interceptions. People thought the Cowboys' defense was good, and they're praising Dan Quinn. They're a bottom 10 defense in basically every single stat. So he's not a good coach either. So the coaching is a big issue for the Cowboys for me, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about Mike McCarthy, but I do think the fact that you brought those guys back. And Kellen Moore does make a difference. I think we can all agree that that's a good piece to have back with an offense that has as much explosiveness as any in the league. If they fix some of the issues on defense, like we talked about Trayvon Diggs throughout the course of the year, like ton of interceptions, that's not a stat that's always going to be reproduced year in, year out. But I also think you can fix some of the issues with the amount of yards that he gave up over the course of the year and fix some of those big play issues. So you're right. Like they have flaws and the defense isn't great, but they had a ton of takeaways last year. They were good at getting pressure on the quarterback. And I just don't know what other team right now in the NFC has as much talent on both sides of the ball than that of Dallas. So
I agree with that point for sure.
Always interested to hear what you guys have to say as well. Feel free to weigh in the comments. Also check out some of the offseason stuff that we're doing over at BetSided for the NFL, because even though the season is over, football doesn't sleep. Roger Goodell, big advocate of having football in your face whenever possible, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as long as there's betting markets for it over at WynnBET, we will do the same for you guys over at BetSided. So for my guys, Peter, Ian, Donovan, and Reed, I'm Ben. Thanks so much for watching us. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up, subscribe for plenty more insights over from the crew at BetSided. Until then, talk to you soon.